this is Dave. Welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be part one of a series of highlighting or spotlighting guitar players that really influenced me as a player, as a listener, as a writer. I mean, basically as everything. And I thought, not in any particular order, but I think it's cool, like when I do the videos of like, this is a record you should check out, or this is something you could check out. When I thought about doing like a list of guitar players, I thought like, well, I wouldn't really get to spend time and talk about them much if I did it like in a big list. And then I also felt like I wasn't sharing enough of why I thought they were great. And if I were watching somebody talking about a player that influenced them, I'd want to get a little bit into it as well. So I thought I would do it like this and into like a series. So this will be part one of my guitar player spotlight. So yeah, but before we get started, what I'd like to do is show you this guitar, and then I'm going to put it back in the case. But anyways, this is a Gary Kramer Crusader. It was a prototype that Gary had made, and it's got the Wilkinson bridge. Instead of having two tone pots, it has this, which turns the neck pickup on so you can get 7 positions. And eventually, instead of going with this, he went with a humbucker in the bridge and a bound neck. And that was how the Crusader came out. Well, this was the prototype. Recently, someone turned me onto a website, and it's called Raven West Guitars. And for like $369, they have almost this exact guitar with 21 frets, 3 single coils, the Wilkinson, but the bound neck. And doing some research, I found that it was made in Korea, and I assume probably at the same factory because it looks like the same build. So I just think that's a quick little heads up for anybody out there. And I've read some stuff about people complaining about like the neck wood was dry, and I don't even know if I want to address that. It's like you can put oil on a neck, but for the most part, a neck is dry. I don't know. Put oil on it. Put lemon oil on it. I don't even know if you even need that. Really, the neck wood, like a rosewood or anything like that, will maintain I think 6 to 8%, depending on the varying humidity that you're in. But you might need to have a fret dress. I know when Gary brought these in, that Leo Scala, the luthier, definitely gave a setup and a one-over and probably did a fret dress on this. So you might have to do a fret dress. But for $369, check out, I think they call him the Skymaster. From what I can see, it looks like a great guitar. Anyways, let's talk about Steve. Again, before we get started, let me just address the Flash Gordon t-shirt. I mean, how great was that movie, Flash? You know, my band FM station, we try to do stuff from like right around 1980 because I get it such a kick out of, I was 12 years old, yet AC/DC, Back in Black came out. I mean, Pete Townsend, Empty Glass, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, the Dio, Ozzy Osbourne. So many great stuff came out. And Queen was at the height of their game with the album The Game in 1980. And then Flash Gordon, the movie, came out. And I have a really good friend of mine, great guitar player on the West Coast, Matt Cable, once points out to me, he says, how come in the beginning of the movie they're asking what Earth is, but yet they have an earthquake button? I think that's hysterical. Matt, I still use that because I think it's one of the funniest mistakes in the film. But anyways, big Flash fan. Brian Blessed as Vulcan, just great. Or is it Voltan? Anyway, who cares? And the guy that later played Bond as the Prince. God, I'm blanking on his name, but he's in a great movie with the guys from Shaun of the Dead. Hot Fuzz. Anyways, so around 1987, I was... this is before I got into like the new wave, well, not new wave, but more like before I got into the Oingo Boingo stuff, and before Fishbone, before I got into any of that stuff, and I was still a metalhead. I remember I was listening a lot to a record by Uli Roth called Beyond the Astral Skies, and I was trying to cop as much off that as possible. I felt like it was like the combination of like Ingve and blues, and that album to me had a special place. And so, two friends of mine who were brothers went to West Texas State University, decided to quit college, and they're moving to California. So I pack it up and go. And they had been listening in college to a guy named Steve Wariner and his new album, which was "It's a Crazy Life," which is a great song written by Mac McNally, who, if you go see Jimmy Buffett, he's got that crazy pompadourish hairdo. Great guitar player. Anyway, so I really got into that music, and when I came back to Boston, it was like the fall, and I put that album on, and it just hit me. It's like, these songs are great. So I went back and I bought the album that came out before that, which was Life's Highway, and also the new album that was out at that time, which was I Should Be With You. And I was hooked. I was a Steve Wariner fan. I'm a huge fan of these songs. I mean, the songs were awesome. Off of I Should Be With You. I even do on my old YouTube page, which I think I still have the video for. I'll post it at the end of this, of me playing I Should Be With You. It's a great open G tuning with a drop C in the low E string. So it's C, G, D, G, B, D. But anyways, it's such a great, like on I Should Be With You, that song I Should Be With You, Running's a great song. Hold On. Off of It's a Crazy World. Besides It's a Crazy World, it had, the big hit was Linda, which I never was crazy about, but looking back at it now, I kind of like it when I listen to it now, but I remember when it came out, I mean, I liked it. It didn't hold like If I Can Make a Living Out of Loving You, Small Town Girl, The Weekend. There's Always a First Time. I can't say enough about how great I thought Steve was. Well, and I wasn't really out there copying his stuff, but every album that came out, I would buy it. So now it's 1995, and I moved back to Los Angeles. And it's 96, and a friend of mine, the one who turned me on to that record, calls me up, and he's like, Warren is playing in Hollywood. We gotta go. And I'm like, oh, absolutely. Well, what I didn't know was he was out and he had a new album out that I didn't know. It was called No More Mr. Nice Guy, which was basically him chicken picking. I mean, it was like a great guitar album, and the song that I opened with is on that album, called For Chester B. And so I didn't know. I wasn't expecting anything. I figured he's coming out and he's playing his hits. So we get to the show, and Steve comes out, and he's ripping. I mean, chicken picking, the B-bender thing going, and I was like, this guy plays like this, and he's got that voice and all these songs, and I was just, I mean, from that point on, I woodshedded a lot of country, chicken picking, and I mean, it's an ongoing thing. I still do it. I'm by no means great at it, but it's something to add to your arsenal. So if you're looking for a record to hear like some great chicken picking and some, very like musical stuff, check out No More Mr. Nice Guy. Now, since then, he's put out a couple of different guitar albums. He did a Chet Atkins tribute because he played for Chet for years, and he was like Chet's protege, and he's one of the 4 CGPs, which is Certified Guitar Player, an award that Chet gave out. John Knowles, a nylon player, Tommy Emmanuel, Steve Wariner, and Jerry Reed are the only 4 that were given. I think posthumously they gave one to Paul Yandel. I think, I'm not sure, but the 4, that were given by Chet were those 4 people. So, I mean, I really recommend and want you to take a look at some of his stuff. Now, solos to really check out. And I played in a country band called Lonesome Rodeo a couple of years ago, and we did Driving and Crying off the Drive album. The solo, it's like, it's not even typical Steve, but it's just, it fits the song If one thing Steve really is great at is playing for the song. He's not out there to wow you, but he does. But he just plays for the song. Um, and he's in with that group of guys. Vince Gill. Um, who did that? Nothing but taillights. In fact, I think Steve may have co-written that, but Clint Black. Now, Clint Black has a song with Steve called "Been There." Awesome. I mean, just great. Steve also did a bunch of stuff with Garth, Long Neck Bottle, but my favorite was Burning the Roadhouse Down. You want to hear a great song. Um, Love, Love, which I love Matt Rawlings on that on the piano. It's just awesome. So Steve is like, I would consider one of my guitar heroes because, it's funny because some people don't like country. And I'm fine with that. There's plenty of stuff I don't like. You know, the thing about country is, let's put it this way. If music is chicken and you're a chef, there's all these different spices you can put. So you don't like Cajun spices? Okay, I get it. But if you're a cook, you really should know how to cook with it. So if you don't really care for country, you still should learn some of the things that it takes to play that style. Now, the one thing that country players have, which I think over everybody else, is they have great pitch. They bend to pitch. They're great at that. And one thing that I have a complaint with the blues players is that they don't have great pitch. And it's these, when you watch beginner blues players play, it's very arbitrary, the notes, and it's, to me, it becomes unlistenable at a point. Whereas the beginner country players get it already. They're already working towards that. And there's a great old, I think it was Starlix back in like the 80s when Larry Carlton did a whole thing about how country playing really helped his bending and bending to pitch. And it's something that I think that people should really spend time with. And as far as like Steve Wariner's playing going, it really helped me with that. I think there's a lot of country guys out there besides Steve. Brent Mason is great. I think the thing that it didn't hit me with was because Steve had all these great songs, and I was such a fan. I mean, I love like George Strait. I like Tim McGraw, but George Strait, I love some of his stuff. I mean, I think he's been at it for so long, and he's so great. And we were listening to him back in '87 as well. But it didn't hit me as much as the Wariner stuff. And, he has a great voice, but great playing. And just somebody who really moved my meter as to what I was playing. Because when you start off in as a guitar player, you have a love that you want to play. And I was playing like Judas Priest and Sabbath, and I got into shred like Uli and Yngwie. You get into all that stuff, and then when you find these things on the side, like I got shortly after that in the later 80s, I got into Johnny Marr from the Smiths a lot. I got into The Cure a lot, and I like a lot of stuff that has the jangly open string stuff. I dig that, but I really got into country because I found that the playing was so, it's clean. You're on a telly. You got a lot of open strings. You got a lot of things to do. So, let me give you. I'll tell you what. I'll give you 4 albums to check out by Steve Wariner. Number 1, I would say, is Drive. I think as a pop album, a pop country album from '92, I believe, every song on that record is great. I think Drive is a great album. Obviously, It's a Crazy World is my all-time favorite from him. And Life's Highway. Every song is great. And then I would say you can then pick one of his chicken picking records. I mean, you have Guitar. What is it called? Guitarology. I can't remember the name of the record. It has Telekinesis. I mean, that album was okay. I wouldn't recommend it over if you're into Chet Atkins, I'd recommend the tribute to Chet, or I would recommend No More Mr. Nice Guy, just so you can hear one of his albums where he goes off and plays. But Steve's one of my all-time favorite players, and I just wanted to give him mention because I don't think a lot of people know who he is or haven't been turned on to him. And, it's one of those things. it was very funny. So when I managed West LA Music, they were doing the people from the CMAs came down, and it was two girls, and they were talking to the boss, and we started talking, and they called me into the conversation, and it was a big thing about Bill Anderson. So I said, "Oh, cool, is Steve Wariner given the award?" And he always hears me talk about Steve, and he's just like, "Dave, they have no idea who Steve Wariner is," and they're looking at him going, "Yeah, Steve's given an award. He's going to do it via satellite." And the look on his face of shock of seeing, because he always heard me talk about him, but thought no one ever heard of him, and it was very funny. But yeah, I think Steve's a guy to me. It's a shame because he had like best album, I think in '87, best country record, that people aren't aware of who he is and what he's done. Like I said, as a guitar player, he's one of my top guys, and I'll be going over different guys and what records to check out and what they mean to me as a player. But Steve is definitely one of my tops. And I figured I'd start with him because he's not something typical of the videos that you've seen me post so far, but definitely one of my idols. So, anyways, I'm going to leave you with this. This is a video of me playing the acoustic guitar to "I Should Be With You," and I hope you have a great day. And hope you have fun checking out some new music. And hope you like Steve Wariner as much as I do. All right, very good.